Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The deadline for residents to move out of an affordable RV park in Vista has come and gone, but some are still there. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll, in for Maya Trabulsi. The residents were given eviction notices when the property was sold. Now, KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne says they're getting some help from the city's fair housing attorneys.
Of the 30 families that made up the Green Oak Ranch RV community, 7 remain.
It's not that we don't want to leave. We need to make sure that where we live is safe and affordable.
Hubert Reed Jr. and his family live in a tiny home on the property. He said he was relieved when fair housing attorneys for the city of Vista issued a letter stating the eviction notices they received were invalid.
A big relief, almost like a pause, a sign of stress guard that we don't have to get out right now.
The letter states that the landlord, Green Oak Ranch Ministries, and the property owners failed to follow the Tenant Protection Act. The law requires property owners or landlords to inform tenants of the reasons behind an eviction. If the evictions are without just cause, the law mandates either a rental waiver for the last month of tenancy or relocation assistance. The letter presented a mitigation plan. It calls on the ranch to rescind the eviction notices and to offer relocation benefits equal to 3 times the last month's rent to each tenant who has already moved out of the park.
And the reason why we provide fair housing services is because landlords aren't always following the law. And this has happened before. This isn't the first time that the city of Vista has had to step in and help tenants and defend tenants.
Vista Deputy Mayor Katie Melendez says evictions are happening throughout the city and displacing families.
We don't know what the response will be from this landlord, but right now it looks like the tenants have a little bit more time.
Green Oak Ranch Ministries holds the lease of the property through the end of the year. In a statement, the ministry said their evictions are lawful and their attorneys will be responding to the city and their fair housing attorneys. They say the letters we received were based on the new tenant protection law, SB 567. That law makes some very clear exceptions. As Green Oak Ranch Ministries is recognized as a religious organization, we are exempt from SB 567. Back at the ranch, the remaining families have also obtained an attorney.
He just said this is wrong, and it needs to be done right, and we just need more time. I'm just heartbroken that our neighbors that have left under distress are in a worse position.
Reed's wife, Lorraine, fears many of the families that moved out got into unsafe, unaffordable, or unsustainable housing.
We've been prayerfully seeking the Lord on where, and He will open a door. But it's just been horrible.
She says all of the remaining families are actively looking for housing. As attorneys litigate the legal standing of the eviction notices, Solutions for Change, the new property tenant, is getting ready to move in. The nonprofit was awarded the lease to the 110 acres to expand their services to homeless families. That lease begins January 1st. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Better weather conditions forecast in the coming days are good news for firefighters in Los Angeles County. The Franklin fire has grown to more than 4,000 acres and is now 7% contained. It tore through part of Malibu, burning near mansions and Pepperdine University. Up to 20,000 people were forced to leave their homes.
The smoke was so thick you couldn't really see. Like, someone was standing over there, you couldn't see him. It was crazy. It's insane. I mean, they had so many fire trucks in here and just so many, I mean, the people that know this land, they really fought for it.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Officials say more than 8,000 homes and structures are under threat, but one man went above and beyond to help save homes, and we'll have that story coming up.
Well, as we head into the weekend, I am tracking really nice weather here for both your Thursday and your Friday. We will see some chilly mornings, but overall we're going to see mild conditions during the afternoon hours, and overall the weekend looks great. Just wait till you see what I have in store for your Saturday and Sunday.
SDG&E is making progress in restoring power to customers after dangerous fire weather conditions forced emergency shutoffs. At last check, just over 1,500 customers are still without power. At one point, power was out for more than 50,000 customers, mostly in rural East County. Our media partner, KGTV, spoke to a Ramona resident whose power is back on now after being out for 48 hours. He called SDG&E to ask about the delay.
Well, we've got people that need to go out and look at the lines, and we need to do everything in our power to make sure it's safe before we can turn it back on. You're getting various pieces of answers and information. You're also getting what I consider to be a lot of the blame game. A lot of, well, this agency is responsible for making the decision. No, that agency is.
A spokesperson from SDG&E says they had to wait for conditions to improve before workers could respond. The company then inspects power lines, which includes launching drones and a helicopter. Officials also say the infrastructure is complex, meaning different neighborhoods are potentially on different circuits. That's why one block could be out while another could be on. SDG&E says power for some residents is not expected to return until at least Friday. Resource centers are still open. You can see them on your screen now. Their hours are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. San Diego County's nuclear power plant, San Onofre, was closed more than 10 years ago, and now there's only one left in the state, Diablo Canyon, near San Luis Obispo. KPBS Sci-Tech reporter Thomas Fudge spoke with someone who says it's time to shut that one down, or at least diminish its output.
The Diablo Canyon nuclear plant was supposed to be closed down this year and next, but a bill passed 2 years ago has kept its 2 reactors open until 2029 and 2030. The plant generates nearly 10% of California's total energy, but critics say it's actually giving the state too much energy, especially in the spring when they have hydropower. Richard McCann is with the consulting firm M3. He says in 2023, California generated enough hydropower to match the power we already got from the nuclear plant.
That combination made it so that we had a lot of excess power in the system. It's not that it was excess solar power, it's excess power. And the biggest culprit for that excess power is Diablo Canyon, which was supposed to be retired.
McCann says when the state has too much power, it can either try to sell it to neighboring states, often at rock bottom prices, or it has to just dump the energy, which means it goes to waste. Solar power has become a plentiful clean energy source that the state may have underestimated when it chose to extend Diablo Canyon. Brian Murray is with the California ISO, which runs the grid. He says nuclear is clean power, no greenhouse gas emissions, but it does create nuclear waste, and it's got to run 24/7, making it very inflexible.
With the lack of flexibility and the growth of flexible resources that we have coming onto our system, I just don't know if there's going to be value in retaining those resources.
Go ahead. Also, McCann says nuclear power from Diablo Canyon is expensive. PG&E is applying to raise the cost of keeping the plant open, and that will affect San Diego ratepayers as well. We got no comment from PG&E. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
The end of year travel stretch is just around the corner, and AAA says Americans can expect a busy time in the skies and on the roads. Karen Kafa is in Washington with a look at how to prepare now for smooth travels ahead.
Buckle up and get ready for crowded flights and roadways all over again.
Thanksgiving was a record setter, and here we are with the year-end holiday forecast, and we're projecting another record year.
AAA expects 119.3 million people will travel 50 miles or more during the holiday period between Saturday, December 21st and Wednesday, January 1st. And for the 107 million Americans expected to drive, gas prices will be lower than last holiday season. AAA spokesperson Aixa Diaz says there's a traditional drop in winter demand coupled with new trends.
A lot of people are working remotely over the holidays, not going into the office as much. That brings gas demand down. And a lot of people do their holiday shopping online. So you're not having as many people driving to stores as we used to in the past.
Government inflation data released Wednesday showed airfares up 4.7% year over year. Melanie Fish of Expedia says domestic fares were pretty reasonable ahead of the holidays, but now the clock is ticking.
If you haven't made your plans yet to go over the hills and through the woods to grandmother's house, you've got to get on it.
Fish also says air passengers haven't faced too many delays and cancellations this year, but notes it's winter now.
It is the holidays. So make sure you have all your travel apps downloaded so you're getting updates quickly. Keep it in a carry-on. It's going to save you so much of a headache if you're not searching for a lost suitcase. And be flexible. Make sure you're leaving yourself plenty of time once you get to the airport.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria recently announced he was halting the effort to redevelop the 6 blocks around City Hall. But Voice of San Diego CEO Scott Lewis says that work was one of the main reasons Gloria said in a controversial decision 2 years ago that the city needed to buy 2 towers downtown.
The news that Mayor Todd Gloria was ending efforts to drop a master vision for the city's civic core surprised the Downtown Partnership and Prebys Foundation. They had hired world-renowned civic planners to create a cultural hub for San Diego with needed housing, schools, arts organizations, and a restoration of the Civic Theater. The mayor, though, said the effort could not continue because voters had rejected the sales tax increase in Measure E. But Gloria never said he needed a tax increase to pursue the Civic Center vision. The city spent $132 million to buy 2 towers, 101 Ash Street and Civic Center Plaza, because city leaders said they had a once-in-a-generation opportunity to realize that vision for the heart of downtown and to settle the 101 Ash Street lawsuits it had filed. Here was Council President Sean Rivera at the time.
Some have said that this settlement will reward bad actors by having the city purchase what is currently an uninhabitable building. I understand that sentiment. However, it ignores a key point. Full control of the properties is a goal of ours because it will aid the city in solving for multiple problems, such as office space and housing needs. Thus, by refusing this deal because we don't like the characters on the other side of the negotiating table, we'd essentially be punishing ourselves so we can prove a point.
The city attorney wanted to keep pushing those lawsuits to recover more money, but Mayor Todd Gloria was also determined.
All told, what we are gaining is certainty as to our costs and the ability to begin immediately planning for the future of our workforce and how to make the land that we own in the civic core work for all of us.
It was a bet on the future, Elo Rivera said.
We have to deliver. Those of us who support a settlement today are betting on this city to do something that many folks do not think we can do, and that is successfully redevelop the civic core. I'm willing to make that bet, but there's going to be accountability involved.
Not that much accountability, actually. The effort is now dead. So what about the buildings? Turning them into new housing, a new civic center was what we were, as the council president said, betting on. We lost the bet, it looks like. On our podcast last week, Mayor Todd Gloria said maybe something smaller could come together.
It could be still that we do a piecemeal approach, because getting off of our current site to allow a wholesale sort of reimagination of the 6 blocks that the city currently owns, which has been my vision and what I wanted to get accomplished, that's not possible any longer, not in this era of austerity. But what we can do is continue to negotiate with the disposition of 101 Ash Street to convert that into much needed housing.
The Prebys Foundation and Downtown Partnership issued a statement saying they would do everything they could to try to put together that vision of a cultural hub of the city. I'm Scott Lewis from Voice of San Diego, and that's why it matters.
Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/publicmatters. Kamala Harris voters might still feel shell-shocked over the election results, even though polls were consistently tight. KPBS's Amita Sharma reports those unlikely surprised by the outcome are a group of political scientists.
Key polls on the presidential race from 538 to the Cook Political Report gave Vice President Kamala Harris a slight edge over President-elect Donald Trump in November. But modeling by political scientists across the country accurately predicted Trump's win, including the popular vote, a month before the election. The models used basic factors such as people's perceptions of the economy, whether the country is on the right track, and if the incumbent administration is headed in the right direction. UCSD political scientist Thad Kauser.
Election results are relatively predictable by, is the economy getting better? If it is, people reward the incumbent party. If it's not, people punish the incumbent party.
Despite predicting the tightness of the presidential race, popular polls have repeatedly underestimated Trump's support among voters.
The fact that we've seen surveys slightly or largely underpredicting Republican performance in really the last 3 presidential elections, I think indicates that Republicans may be less likely to pick up that phone, less likely to be as forthcoming about their views.
Kauser says pollsters have to figure out how to reach Democrats and Republican voters in equal numbers and predict which party will actually cast ballots. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
The Franklin fire is surging through Malibu, burning homes and businesses and forcing evacuations. But in one community, a neighbor took quick action and saved people's homes, along with a very old tortoise. Jasmine VL has the story.
This house is gonna go down, bro.
Cell phone video shows Alec Gellis fighting the fire that started on Malibu Canyon Road Monday night with his own fire hose and water pump for hours.
I hear screaming, I hear honking. I go outside and the sky is red. And I drive around the corner, the whole mountain is on fire.
He and a friend stood on the roof of his home in the hills above Malibu off Sarah Road, spraying water as the fire ignited palm trees and houses around him.
Yeah, the fire was fully surrounding us, drenched the whole house.
Gellis says he was able to save 5 of his neighbors' houses on Mariposa de Oro Street.
Saved this house right here. Saved their tortoise. They had a 100-year-old tortoise that we saved.
But unfortunately, he watched several other homes burn, including this one that was still burning late into Tuesday morning. You can see behind me, firefighters still working to put out some of the fire burning still inside of this guest home here in the Sarah Retreat community. And neighbors say that this community is so lucky. So many more homes could have burned here of the 150 up here. But yeah, this fire, they say, was raging as it came through.
We were driving around at like 1 in the morning just checking out all the fires, and there's not much we could do.
Matt Greenberg also tried to help his friends who live in this private gated community above PCH.
I kind of got in here and there was spot fires going on and the guest house was on fire, and so me and a neighbor put some of the spots out. I mean, it was, you know, we did what we could.
But Gellis and Greenberg were among the few who stayed behind as thousands of people in the evacuation zone around Malibu were ordered to leave Tuesday under red flag conditions.
It's always scary living out here. It's a reality of living in Malibu, but it's also such a beautiful place.
As we head into tonight, I'll be tracking overnight lows in the 40s with some clouds near the coast. Some areas will see overnight lows dipping into the 30s. 35 tonight for both Oceanside and Camp Pendleton. Future track radar showing we will see some rain to the north, even some snow flurries across the higher elevations. But overall here as we head throughout your Thursday, some cloud coverage working its way in late. It may even try to rain for some areas, but overall it looks like it'll stay dry here across Southern California with more rainfall developing across northern parts of the state. The overall setup for your Thursday, the rain will stay to the north, as will the snow. It'll be dry here across San Diego County with highs making it to the mid-60s for the most part. 62 downtown San Diego. Friday, we'll still see that dry air here in place with even more rainfall across northern parts of the state. And highs for Friday will make it into the mid to upper 60s. We'll see some more mild conditions, a little bit cloudier, however, on Friday for the forecast. For that 5-day outlook here across the coast, we will see some chilly conditions here during the morning hours. Overnight lows will dip into the 40s. Some areas will see overnight lows in the 30s. It'll be pretty chilly from time to time, but overall lots of sunshine here for your Thursday and Friday. The weekend looks good too, with highs making it to the mid 60s. Now, as we go inland, we'll see temperatures dipping into the 30s here for a couple of mornings there as we head into the weekend. But overall, partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the mid-60s for your Thursday and Friday. We'll actually see temperatures rebounding into the upper 60s here as we head into the weekend. We could even see some 70s as we head into early parts of next week, so heads up for that. As we take a look at the mountain forecast, we will see overnight lows right around freezing here for a couple of mornings as we head into the weekend. Very windy conditions in the forecast on Thursday, but it does look like it's going to stay dry here for us. And then after that, we'll see temperatures in the mid to upper 40s, even some 50s as we head into next week. And then for the desert, overnight lows will dip into the 40s. Highs will be in the 70s, dipping in the 60s for Friday and Saturday before returning to the 70s starting on Sunday.
In Santa Barbara County, this is usually a very colorful time of year. Thousands of western monarch butterflies cover the area in orange and black splendor. But not this year. Mina Wahab has more on their noticeable absence.
Walking amongst these eucalyptus groves and seeing just these bursts of, orange and black and gorgeous butterflies over every winter really had a lasting impact on me.
As winter approaches, people travel to Elwood Mesa and Goleta to see the thousands of western monarch butterflies.
It is one thing that really introduces kids to kind of the splendor of nature.
But this year, Elwood Mesa is far less colorful. Only 4 butterflies have been counted in the area in the latest December counts. Last month, that number was 34. It's a stark contrast to previous years.
Monarchs that were here last year, like at Goleta, we had 10 to 15,000. A lot of those monarchs started to leave early, and then we got some big storms, and those big storms tend to unfortunately kill quite a few of those adult migrating monarchs. We had a couple of heat waves. Those heat waves tend to kill monarch eggs.
Butterfly counts are extremely low across California, including Pismo Beach.
This past July was the hottest July in California's history. Prolonged drought that impacts their breeding habitat. So what we're seeing now, these really low numbers, really is a reflection of the climate crisis that's going on.
Emily Doyle with the California State Parks Foundation says in addition to climate change, there are concerns about pesticide use contributing to the rapid decline of the monarch population. But there are things you can do to help, like planting nectar plants in order to provide food and planting milkweed in order to help with the breeding habitat.
What we can really do is help make habitat more climate resilient. What makes these sites so unique, where butterflies return every year, is there are these overwintering sites along the California coast, and they provide a really important microclimate that monarchs need to survive the winter.
Some folks are already getting started. On Saturday, the Bucket Brigade planted trees at Elwood Mesa.
If you regularly travel Highway 52, you might have noticed something. There's a section of the roadway that's a little like a roller coaster. There's a reason why, and it involves some of our cast-off history. Ken Kramer shows us in this story about San Diego.
We're eastbound on Highway 52, just past the 805. Now, I want to show you something. Don't look at the scenery, look at the road. I mean the pavement itself. Watch. You're going to see it change from concrete to asphalt right there. Did you see it?
And then you go on and you get close to the 163 and it turns back to concrete again.
Here it is coming westbound. Same thing right there. Suddenly the 52 right around Convoy changes. No more concrete, it's asphalt. And Robert Epler says that's by design.
They knew that concrete would just break up, but with asphalt, it's flexible.
Flexible, enough to accommodate, let's call them the dips, that I'll bet you have noticed on the 52. Traffic bounces along. It's a bit like a roller coaster, and the story has always been that this road is settling because it was built right over a more than half-century-old city dump.
It is true. It's the old South Miramar landfill that started in December 7th, 1959.
Robert is with the city's Environmental Services Department. He used to run the landfills in San Diego. He shows us the highway here in an aerial view. You can see the darker part is more flexible asphalt, and the yellow dots there, that's where the now decaying trash was dumped all those years ago and where the road has settled. So much so, he says, that layers of new pavement have to keep being added to smooth out the dips. Want to guess how much?
They've got maybe 5 to 8 feet of asphalt that's been built up over the years since Route 52 went through.
That's right, he says, in spots 5 to 8 feet of asphalt, layer upon layer added to try to smooth out the road as trash from a half-century ago rots beneath it. Up until 1973, tons of San Diego waste was buried at South Miramar and then covered over. When it got full, trash was taken to new areas further north and west, and the old landfill was closed. But that's not the end of it, Robert Epler says.
The old landfill keeps settling.
It's decomposing. Decades of stuff. Banana peels and milk cartons, newspapers, tree trunks, tin cans, everything. It rots away, and the land that covered it up then sinks at different rates depending on what's down there.
That's called differential settlement.
And if there's a road running along on top of it, well, it's going to sink too. And that's why we get a bumpy ride on the 52 around Convoy.
I mean, some of these things are 60 and 70 years old, and there's still settlement occurring.
Bottom line, if you've ever wondered about those dips and rolls, and maybe heard somebody say, hey, did you know there's an old landfill under there? They're not just trash talking. It's a true story about San Diego.
No trash talk from Ken. If you'd like to see more of Ken Kramer's stories about San Diego, he has a half hour of them lined up to see every Thursday night at 8 on KPBS. You can find tonight's stories on our website. That, of course, is kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.